Good afternoon, YouTube. I'm going to take a few minutes here this afternoon and show you how to build one of these. This is a sometimes known as a Pi Star or a jumbo hotspot. It is a little card that works with a Raspberry Pi, and you can access various modes through the internet, such as your DMR, Fusion, Wires X type of radios, Yasu, or the P25, and also the D-Star. So this little guy here will get you in about 4 different modes. Now they sell these things already built on the internet, all loaded up for well over $100. But I'm going to show you how you can build this thing. I think I've got less than $50 into this. And you know, it's a good economical way to get into using a hotspot and not being dependent on local repeaters. So you can be in any area as long as you have a good Wi-Fi connection. You can get on your handheld or your desktop radio and get access to various digital modes that are available to you. So let me get at it. I'm going to show you where you can buy the Raspberry Pi board, the little radio board that's in here, the kit for that, and then where to get the software, and I'll show you how to solder it all up and load on the software. So let's get at it. Let's unbox this and see what we got. The antenna that goes on there. Let's swap it with this one because I like these better. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to solder on these little connectors. These will ultimately mate up with the bottom of the MMDVM board, and they go on like that. They'll mate. But to do that, they got to go onto the Raspberry Pi, and you just kind of line them up on the end here. You get that one in there like that, and that one in there like that. So I'm going to go ahead and put these on here, and then solder this on. This is really the only soldering that needs to be done. There's basically 20 connections. There's 10 on this one and 10 on that one you have to solder. I'll use the soldering iron here, just a regular temperature controlled soldering iron, some flux solder, and I've got a little magnifying thing here that I'll put on my head. It'll help me see it. It is fine work. So if you've not soldered before, maybe practice on something before you start, but it's really not hard to do. That's the only real solder work that needs to be done. But you'll see both these boards. This is the Raspberry Pi Zero board, and this is the Multi-Mode Digital Voice Module, and they just go on top of each other. SD card goes in this little guy over here when you're done, and I'll show you in the next part of this video how to flash that, and that's the operating system and the application that runs the modem. So we'll show you that as well. But all this hardware here is what you need to build this thing with. You just see I swapped out this antenna for this one. This is a couple dollar antenna I bought off eBay. I just did it because it's shorter and it'll fit and travel easier. This is really only good on the 70 centimeter or the 440 megahertz band. I tested it. It's not really good on the VHF band, but neither is the other one. So this is really to be used on the 70 centimeter or the 440 megahertz band. So just give me a moment here, and I'm going to solder this on, so I'll show you how easy it is. All right, let's see if we can get this soldered on here. I've got the connectors already laid on here. So just gonna get my head down close here where I can see what I'm doing. And I go on each pin and solder. Get this tip all tinned up here. There we go. It's good to have a good tinned up tip. And you'll see the solder flow down the edge of that connector when you get it on there. It kind of balls up at first, and then it just wicks right down there as the heat heats up. You just want to leave the soldering iron on for not more than a couple of seconds. Don't want to overheat the board. But that's it. Take a quick look at this thing here real quick and see if this all looks good. Then I want to get some, well, I got one of them here I got to reheat and reflow. But take a good look at it when you're done. Make sure all the solder is flowed down and all these pins good. This one here didn't flow well. I want to reflow the solder here a little bit. Maybe a little contamination on that. There it goes. Make sure it didn't bridge any of those little traces that go through there. So you can see that's on there, and it's on there all the way around. So now I'm just going to take a little alcohol and clean this flux residue up. If you've got something to clean that up with, it's helpful. And the reason being is that flux residue will corrode over time, and you might get some high resistance paths in here and cause your Raspberry Pi to be intermittent. So I'm going to go get some alcohol, and I'll be right back and clean this. So I got a few of these alcohol wipes, and they're really good for cleaning this up. So I guess at this point I can take the glasses off. I'm just taking just clean the board up really good. Try to get that. You'll see the flux residue, it's flux core solder, and you just want to make sure that's all cleaned off there as much as you can. Nice clean board. Lasts a long time that way. Do one more. Okay. All right. So there you go. That's the Raspberry Pi with the connectors, and we'll simply put these together like that in a moment, and put it all together. Let me clean up this mess, and I'll be right back. All right, now I'm going to start the non-soldering part of the assembly process here. So what we got is we're going to put these two boards together. Little Teflon insulators that go on these screws and kind of stand off on the bottom here. So you'll see me fumble around with this a little bit getting these on here. But the first thing I like to do is just make sure this mates up good and get these connectors on. And the standoffs go on the one side here. You'll see this is kind of stood off by the connector and supported. These are the LED display things. That's why I don't put a solid line of pins along here, because they might short out. So they're not put on. And then these things kind of go in here like this, and we'll go down and through the boards when the time comes. So I kind of put them in there. You can see what I'm doing. But before all that happens, let me pull this back apart. This board's got to set down on here, and you're going to want to make sure you have access to the right pins and stuff. And so I need to make sure the SD card comes around this way. So the SD card hole is right here. And you can see that you'll have access right there on your SD card. This is another little connector over here that's used for other peripherals that won't be used. So basically, you're going to put the short screws in on this side down here. And you'll see them go in. Let me see if I can get these started. I got big fat fingers here. You can see what I'm doing. Just putting the short screws in here. You know what? Got these on the wrong side already, see? Short screw is going to go in on the side with the connector, because the standoff side goes on the other side with the longer screws. So you just get these lined up on here like this, and get these screws in. You don't really have to use much torque at all. I mean, you just want to tighten them down finger tight. Don't put too much torque on them, really not needed. These aren't going in vibrating places. I just, like 2-finger tight there. Really doesn't take much. So this will go on like this. And get this screwed down in here. Oh, I got fat fingers. I'm really not made for doing this. This is pretty small, this electronics these days. Yeah, there we go. Got it. Hope you're getting this. So you got the 2 screws in, bottom row of pins. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to seat the digital voice module here. It's the Multi-Mode Digital Voice Module, MMDVM. And there that goes on there like that. You can see how this is going to go. So then these 2 right here are going to go in and kind of pry that up just a little bit and try to get these Teflon spacers in. Before you put the screw in, makes it easier. A little hard to get in here. So there we go. I got that one in, and then get the they got these little washer things, and this is just so it doesn't bite into the board up there. Should be fine with or without it, but so that's going to go in like that, and I got to do the same thing on the other side here, and that will complete this part of it. Goes in, washer, and then we'll tighten these down. A screw. Again, don't need to be too tight. So there's no screws up here, they're in the air, and then these pins kind of hold that snug up there. Everything's down tight. There's a little display, there's a little cover on this OLED display. You want to pull that off before you put the top on. Protective cover it ships with. And you can see how that's going to set down on there. It's just going to clip right on down on there. And I get it kind of lined up here. Get that on. And oh, they're not as easy as it looks sometimes. There we go. Main thing is getting this connector in. That's the thing that's not going to move too much. And we've got to snap this on here. All right. I had a little problem with the last one doing it too. Their mechanical offsets aren't too good on these things. Let me bend this out just a little bit. Take some of the tension off there when I'm putting it down. There we go. And let me get this to snap down. And we should snap on here. Yeah, there we are. All snapped on. And you see how the SD card lines up there, and you got your ports. They got to line up down in here. So just make sure this snaps all the way down. These are centered up in there. You can see that it is, and then you screw the antenna on. And so that is the assembly. That is done. The only thing I got to do, and I'll take you over to show you in a second, is this is the little card. This is an 8 gigabyte SD card. This little guy, I got to flash in the Raspberry Pi operating system and the DVM operating software, and I'll show you instructions where to find that. You load that and pop it in, then we have to turn it on. But mechanically, it's built. You can see it. Nice little antenna. I just, like I said, I put this shorter one on because the one that comes with it is kind of long, and I got it. I'm putting it in place when I travel with it and stuff. So, in case that's that, I'll put together. All right, we're back at it here. The previous section of the video, you saw me put together the hotspot and put it all together. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and create the software load for it. By that, I'm going to have to download it from the Pi-Star hotspot and load it onto the SD card, which will go into the SD slot, and it will have on the Linux operating system and the DVM. The digital voice module software as well, and that'll all be put on that SD card. Once that's all done, I'll boot this thing up and show you how it boots up. But there's a lot of configuration settings depending on whether you're going to be doing the Fusion version, the DMR, you know, whatever you're going to be running there. So you have to read a little bit on that, how to configure this. There's some videos out there on the web, but this video really was just about building it and then creating the software load so it's actually a functional hotspot at that point. You still are going to have to configure it for your frequency and a few of the other minor settings to get on whichever digital mode you choose. The hotspot's even capable of cross mode on DMR and System Fusion, back and forth on that as well. So there's some videos on that as well out there on the YouTube. But anyway, I'll take a few minutes here and show you how to do this. Okay, so this is where I'm going to show you how we do the where we get the software, how we load it. But before I get started with that, I wanted to show you real quickly where you can source the material that I showed you how to build earlier. This is the Raspberry Pi Zero card. You get it from this site, adafruit.com. It's $10. It'll be about $4.95 in shipping. But this is what it'll look like when it gets to you. And this is where I soldered those pins on. So it'll come to you like this. Shipping's pretty quick. The standard shipping, and it'll get to you in a few days. This right here is the MMDVM hotspot. It comes with all the hardware here that you see, and it's on eBay, $32.85. I think I actually paid $31. That's how I got this for less than $50 total. But you'll be right around $50 when you all total it up. This is the remainder of the hardware that you need. You also need to go out to Amazon or someplace and buy an 8 gigabyte micro SD card that will go in the slot on the Adafruit card or on the Raspberry Pi. It goes in here. That's where we'll burn the software on. So you can get one of those for around $4 off Amazon, but you only need an 8 gigabyte, so get that small one. That's all you need to do that with. So here you are with the hardware, and this comes from China. You can pay about $6 more and get it from other sellers that sell in the U.S. It'll get here in a few days, but it just took me about 2 weeks to get coming from China. I wasn't in any big hurry. So with that, that's the actual hardware. Here's the pistar.uk website. This is where you're going to get the rest of the tools you need to load this thing. The first part here is the Pistar tools. There's quite a bit of stuff in here. The Wi-Fi builder, and then the download section here. This is where you're going to go to download Pistar. And you're going to download this file here, pistar_RPI_ version 3.4.17. So this is a zip file. You unzip this thing, put its contents in a folder, and that's what you're going to flash. They give you information here on how to flash this. If you look here, this Windows imaging guide here, this is going to tell you how to get etcher. This Balena etcher is it's an easy option to, to write the image to the card. So you just go here and download this and install it. I already have all this installed. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to run you through how to actually burn the SD. So if you want to, okay. So here we are. I loaded up after you download this Balena etcher program here. This is the file that I had downloaded and unzipped. It's Pistar. This is it right here. So when you load this application up, it's going to look like this. Let me minimize some of this stuff. It's going to look like this, and it's going to say select image. You're going to go to the folder you unzip the file in that you downloaded. You're going to select your SD card, and you're going to hit flash, and it's going to take a little bit of time. So here I go, select image. Here's the image. It's on that's the path to it. Open that. It's going to say where am I going to program this to. I want to make sure this is the SD card. It's got the SD card on my E-slot. Let's say flash. And so just click yes and starting. So this whole process here is going to take a few minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video and I'll pick it back up when it's done flashing, and then I'll show you loading it into. We'll put it into the hotspot, and then we'll boot it up for the first time, and I'll show you the screens. There's one thing you'll want to do once you're done. First thing you want to do when it boots up is you're going to want to update it. There's an update that updates the web interface. All right, etcher completed, and so it goes through, it completes, and then verifies, and then when it's all done, this is what you get. You'll get the E drive here. It's the boot drive. These are the files that are in it, and the USB drive here. You can't open this, but these are what it ends up with when it's all done building the boot file and everything. This folder right here, this file right here is a configuration file for the your internet connection, your Wi-Fi connection, and all that. So when you plug this thing in, you can connect to it and then configure it. I copied this in manually, and what I'm going to show you real quick is this is where you're going to copy it into the C, the boot, just directly in here. And what this is if you follow your instructions for configuring it, you're going to have to connect to the internet, to your web browser here. And so there's this tools in here. Let me find it. I think it's under PyStar Tools, this Wi-Fi Builder. If you click on this thing right here, it tells you to enter all this. It's going to create this file. This is your SSID of your router at your house, your password for that. You select your country, hit submit. It creates that file I showed you, and you copy it directly in. So this is the tool that does that. Okay, so that's something you need to know to do. And with that, then you put that into your SD slot on that little PyStar and boot it up. We're going to do that next. Okay, once you've put in the SD card into the slot, you're going to boot this thing up. You're going to have to go out and figure out your IP address for this device. I usually go into my router and look at it. It should come up when you put that configuration file in onto your system. Or you can put in pi-star .local, and it will come up that way as well sometimes. But I find the best way is to get the IP address from my router, plug that directly in. It will come up, and the first thing you want to do, I've recorded this like 3 times now. Every time I do it, the recording screws up. But you're going to hit the update button. It's going to go through the update. You'll reboot it again, and then you're going to set up all your settings in here. These settings, the most important ones you're going to want to do is you're going to have to make sure you've got the OLED on. That turns on your display. The YSF mode, these will come up after you configure some stuff on the general configuration screen. You're going to put in your call sign, your DMR ID, your frequency, your lat and long, your location information. You're going to put in this Raspberry Pi hat modem type. You're going to select your country that you want, your time zone, and your language. Every time you do it, you can hit apply changes. It'll go back through that. Then you're going to get this screen here, and I set it up for YSF. Click on that, it applies the changes. Come down through here, Wires X, you got to pass through, Wires X pass through, so when you enter in your room numbers and all that, it works. Uppercase host files, hit apply changes, and then that's pretty much got you set up for YSF mode or Fusion. You can see the other modes you have available. You got D-Star, P25 and NXDN. This is YSF to DMR, so these are cross modes. YSF and NXDN, YSF to P25. So you can go Fusion and all these different things with your little Fusion radio, which is pretty cool. And then you can go DMR to YSF if you got DMR radio. So this is the configuration. I encourage you to go out to this website right here. This is where you're going to find all the information on this. Yeah, remember your downloads. It's got your tools in here for doing your Wi-Fi build that we talked about already. It's got this help in here, PyStar Wiki, and just the resource. This is the original resource here. So here we go. This is everything you need. I'm going to say 73s. Good luck with your build. I hope this was helpful for you. Bye-bye.